Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast, which is titled GenAI in the Network, Moving from Hype to Reality. Now, we all well know that artificial intelligence is increasingly permeating the telecoms industry, and it's beginning to support some key operations from network planning and design to the day-to-day management of the network. Now, we have seen AI technologies such as machine learning provide capabilities for the modeling of network behavior using AI algorithms that have been trained to address network-related use cases. And with this capability, operators have been able to detect and prevent events such as network failures, so they can then take preemptive measures to resolve them. Now, but from early 2023, operators started exploring the use of GenAI technologies, which has the capability to generate content and enable operators to interact with the network and their supporting systems using natural language, which then enables them to be a lot more proficient and to deliver intelligent management of their very complex networks. However, the growing need for improved customer experience demands that operators extend existing Gen AI and other network AI deployment to developing capabilities that enables them to drive more immediate actions within the network so they can deliver high and impactful quality of experience consistently to their customers. Now, today's podcast includes a panel of industry experts who will be diving more deeply into the discussion around the use of Gen AI in the network and how we can scale its adoption to achieve more advanced network use cases. My panelists today include Tunc Yorulmaz, who is Senior Managing Director and Global Lead for Cloud First Networks at Accenture. You're welcome, Tunc.
Pleasure.
Alongside Tunc is Matt Anderson, who is the Head of Telecom Industry Solutions at Google Cloud. You're welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Adaora. Appreciate the opportunity.
You're welcome. And I am Adaora Okeleke, Principal Analyst at Analysys Mason, and I lead our AI and Data Platforms Research Program. I'll be moderating today's discussion. Now, before we go into our discussion, I'll share a few key findings from a recent survey that we conducted of about 100 senior executives from telecom operators across the globe. This survey was conducted by Analysys Mason and sponsored by Google Cloud. Now, these findings will provide a view into operators' adoption of Gen AI in operating the telecoms network. And this information will provide context that will support the rest of our discussions on this podcast. Now, let's start with the big picture. A key finding from our research indicates that Gen AI is being used across the telecoms network operations, with about 82% of telecom operators either trialing or using Gen AI in at least one aspect of the network lifecycle management today. And just under 10%, about 9% of the operators that we spoke with are planning to do so within the next 2 years. Now, operators are prioritizing the mobile core and the radio access network for their Gen AI deployment. And according to our latest study, 77% of operators are either deploying Gen AI to their mobile core networks or plan to do so within the next 2 years. Similarly, over 65% are targeting mobile access networks for Gen AI deployments. And as mentioned, this use cases span network design and planning through to optimization, network, and field operations. From our research, network optimization is the most popular use case for Gen AI, with 83% of the operators that we spoke with considering network optimization as a medium to very high strategic priority. So with that, the big question is, what's driving this rapid adoption amongst operators? The answer is simple: the need to improve customer experience. Now, telecom operators are using Gen AI to optimize network performance and to proactively detect network issues, but also to automate remediation plans. The goal is to minimize as much as possible network outages, accelerate recovery, and ensure a seamless delivery of services to their customers. Now, as operators deploy Gen AI, they are also facing technological as well as organizational challenges. And model accuracy is the biggest technical challenge that operators are faced with today, with 4 out of 5 of the operators that we spoke with struggling to achieve expected results. And this has hindered the ability to scale and to generate return on investments for the Gen AI use cases. With respect to organizational challenges, more than 50% of respondents find access to Gen AI skill sets as a major challenge, alongside generating return on investment and getting access to the budget. Now, based on the results of our study, we also created a maturity index, which assessed the overall readiness and progress of the telecom operators that we surveyed in adopting GenAI for the network. Now, we assess them based on their technological and organizational maturity. For technological maturity, we assess their GenAI implementation progress, strategy, and the tool sets that they're using, as well as the maturity of their data strategy. For organizational maturity, we examine the telecom operators' GenAI vision, organizational readiness for GenAI use, and resources allocated for GenAI development. The telecom operators that we surveyed fell into one of four key categories. 52% were in the GenAI Explorers category, and this category are operators that are still exploring GenAI in the network, but are yet to make major strategic or investment decisions. Over 30%, about 34% of the telecom operators we surveyed are in the category we refer to as the GenAI Navigators category. And this category include operators that are experimenting with GenAI in a few use cases and are starting to establish a strategy and allocate resources to explore and develop these use cases. Now, the third category of operators that we assessed in our study include those that we refer to as the GenAI emerging adopters, which include about 12% of the operators we spoke with. These operators are using GenAI, but are doing so to a limited extent to support some network operations, but they also need to improve their organizational readiness. And the fourth, but certainly not the least, are the most advanced category of operators in the use of GenAI within the network, and refer to these as the GenAI trailblazers. These telecom operators are leading the charge regarding the use of GenAI in the network, from experimentation to real-world deployment. The GenAI trailblazers have a strong vision and C-level support to adopt GenAI in multiple network domains, as well as for cross-domain use cases, with a high level of confidence in generating return on investment. This allows them to make significant investments in the technical and operational skills needed for GenAI deployment. They are also more advanced with their data strategy, but are not fully ready yet, as they are still building a common data platform to support multiple use cases, whilst implementing data governance and security measures. The trailblazers, in addition, have either a center of excellence dedicated to the use of GenAI, or one for general AI initiatives, which fosters the development of AI skills and expertise across their organizations. Now, with these, having shared these key findings with everyone, and we will now delve more deeply into the discussion for today. I'll be starting off with Tunc on this question, that where we would like for you to please throw a bit more light and share some details of a recent telecom operator GenAI engagement that you were involved in. It would also be helpful for you to share with us insights on how this telco moved from developing this GenAI use case from the concept stage to final delivery. Tunc?
First of all, the report was extremely insightful. Thanks a lot for that. Shared certain findings, Adaora, and I can tell you in the report there are many other interesting findings. What is going on. But one thing comes across very clearly. It is early days. And networks are as conservative organizations to deliver and keep their promises to the customers. They are taking baby steps. What we observe in the world now is a lot of POCs are ongoing. We are doing several advanced POCs with clients, and we start to get into production more and more closer. However, it is not easy to see AI deployed on production networks yet. With that, the different clients select different parts to focus. You are extremely right. It starts with the customer experience. And the second one is obviously the cost management. Both of these two dimensions are going hand in hand. And several of our clients are starting how to automate, most importantly, incident management, how the incidents can be managed better. Several of them are requesting change management, like how the change management process can be automated in the most potential way. Third category is becoming field service quality. How to increase the field service quality in a structured manner after the implementation of a fiber or even a base station deployment, how to ensure the quality will be there. And the good thing is, I can explain a little bit more in detail, but there is a process we start to observe. It starts with the business case. Where is the value? Where is the value GenAI will create? No one wants to do GenAI for GenAI's case. Where is the business case? It starts at a pyramid, top of the pyramid is business case. Then there are, three strategic enablers. Number one is process. Are your processes well defined and well documented? Then together with processes is your agentic approach, whether it will be which LLM, SLM is well identified. And finally, do you have the suitable infra without spending too much money on it? You put together the necessary infra. These are like initial enablers. And the final level is more, I should say, that executional enablers. Do you have the right data? Is because it is garbage in, garbage out. You can have the best processes, best agents. If data is not good shape. And by the way, as an industry, we are not proud with the quality of the data we have. Like there are a lot of issues. All industry experts are aware of that. Then the second, I think you touch very nicely in your summary, organization. Do we have the right organizational setup to execute? And finally, which is, I don't know, probably not enough discussed, but I believe the most important component is people. Is people on board? Are they coming and supporting that? With this sort of a high-level pyramid, we see almost like majority of our clients now doing POCs. They are learning, and we are getting day by day to closer to the production environment. Give the word back to you, and Matt, yes, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Tunc. Thank you so much, and that's very helpful and insightful. I'll just move over to you, Matt. Are there any examples you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think Tunc touched on some good concepts there in terms of it's not just about technology and the platform. Obviously, that's what we lead with at Google Cloud in terms of capabilities. But as much, or maybe more so, it's about the organization, the operating model, and the processes that go along with that. So we're huge proponents of having that solid data foundation, because I think what we're seeing is if you don't have confidence in the quality of your data, the insights you get are going to be half baked, and you're not going to see the return on investment that you're expecting from kind of your value analysis going into it. So I think having that data foundation with the customers that we're working with, whether it's large ones in Europe or in North America, that's kind of step one. Obviously, you can go in parallel as you think about moving forward on these initiatives, but having that quality data, I think, is super important. And then I think what we're seeing is a lot of the work in the past 6 months has been kind of maybe Gen AI focused. Now we're seeing kind of that move towards agentic AI, moving from Gen AI being an assistant, right? A co-pilot, whatever you want to call it, super good at understanding, really good at summarizing, really good at recommending action. Now we're moving to how do we go to the autonomous side of this, where we can automatically and programmatically execute, monitor, adapt to things like incident management. I think that's one of the top use cases that we see as well, and change management, right? Those are probably the two things that Google did internally on our own network as we went on our autonomous network journey. It really started with kind of those two areas as well.
Thank you so much, Matt, for that feedback. Those are very interesting. I think the point you make around things moving more towards agentic AI is very interesting, and it also shows how deeply operators are keen on leveraging evolving development around AI to transform their networks as well as their operations. I'm just going to move over to you, Tunc, ask a quick question in terms of where things are going. And Matt has kind of nicely started us off with the discussion around agentic AI. And, to be fair, that is one of the hottest topics that we have right now, even amongst operators. Would you say that, the role that agentic AI will play in terms of automating the network or achieving more of autonomous networks, do you agree that, agentic AI is the key component that can really accelerate operators' vision towards the autonomous networks?
I don't know. Maybe I have too much white hair. And we have seen the same story. As technologists, we underestimate the impact, but we overestimate always the time. It will take time. And I want to sort of emphasize more like agentic, Gen AI, and traditional algorithms. And my gut feel is that majority of the network problems are manageable by traditional algorithms. because in principle, networks are deterministic. You know how things will behave. But if you don't have the right data, if you don't have the right observability, if you don't use the right process, things start to go wrong. Then it becomes probabilistic. From that angle, what I want to emphasize is I believe GenAI and agentic definitely has a role in the autonomous networks, but it is a journey. It is not the panacea for everything. And as Matt said, starting with incident change, starting with quality, like guys, look at how much documentation we are doing for after a change management, how much we are doing the proper RCA after every incident, how much approval we are giving after every implementation. The networks is a very repetitive business. In such places, agentic and GenAI will have a place to survive. And I believe there are a lot of clever network professionals around the world. They are looking for solutions to achieve that. From that angle, like level 5, just like the cars, it is the right vision. Autonomy will come, but in due process. It will not happen. Let's jump into it. I don't think as a conservative industry, none of our experts or professionals will do this. But in time, we will see step by step. Such technologies will get into the networks. And by the way, rightly so. The hiring to networks is not getting harder. Finding the people, and also the cost base has to be managed. Quality has to be increased, and the networks are getting complicated. There are more and more, we will get now soon AI networks. We will get 6G. We will get all these components are coming up. I believe from these angles, agentic will have its own place going forward.
Very interesting, and I think that is more or less, aligning with the theme of today's discussion, which is how do we move from hype to reality, and the sense that it's not going to be a sprint. We're not going to immediately have networks running autonomously. It's going to be a journey. Matt, could you please kind of chime in a bit more on the topic of agentic AI and really what role, how you see operators moving in that stepwise fashion using agentic AI towards realizing their vision for autonomous networks?
Yeah, sure. So I think Tunch said some really important things there, right? Networks are deterministic. They become probabilistic when our data isn't accurate and we try to make decisions off of bad data, right? And so I think foundationally, and I'll probably keep hitting on this throughout the podcast, but the data becomes that key for us to take automated action, right? As networks continue to get more complex, Tunch mentioned 6G coming. It's not that far away, right? We can't scale kind of person for person with the complexity of the network. So how do we get that foundation of data right? How do we start to figure out where we apply AI and agentic AI to some of that complexity to allow us as humans to scale to meet that complexity, right? Because it can't be a linear one-for-one curve. There'd be way too many people and be way too costly to operate networks that way. So I think that becomes foundational from our perspective. And I think what we're seeing operators look at is obviously the building blocks to this. So we can all talk about, and the industry forums talk about, you should be level 4 or level 5. I think it's a good kind of goal, but don't miss the forest through the trees. You got to focus on near-term business value. What areas of operations does a specific operator have issues with, and how do we go tackle those and start to build a foundation of this? And then we can talk about, look, hey, maybe we have agents, and that's where we started on the front. We then move to how do we automate some of those tasks? You go from human in the loop to human on the loop. They approve changes. Ultimately, in the future, it becomes human out of the loop, where you are confident enough in the insights driven off of the quality data that you're getting from the network that you can start to automate functions and value chains, whether it's trouble repair or order to cash or whatever it may be. I think that's kind of the process that we recommend. And I think Tunch and I see eye to eye on that in terms of, the implementations that we do with Accenture as well. It's really looking at this kind of crawl, walk, run approach. And it's not just technology. Again, I think that's another theme that we need to continue to stress, is that the operators need to have that culture of innovation, that culture of continuous learning around artificial intelligence, don't come in with the concept of it's going to take jobs. It's going to make people more efficient. Ultimately, it's going to drive the ability for some of your smartest people to focus on more value add activities instead of chasing down issues in the network. Maybe they're thinking about how do we monetize some of these capabilities, right? And I think thinking about it and maybe flipping the paradigm a little bit there is a good opportunity for those listening to this call and kind of taking it back to their day-to-day activities.
Thanks so much, Matt. You hit quite a number of points there, and I just wanted to kind of delve a bit more deeply because you have said a lot on the data strategy side of things, and from my perspective, data strategy in the context of the agentic AI era kind of goes beyond what we had seen previously with machine learning, and Gen AI, and now agentic AI. So, from your perspective, Tunj, how do you see the focus around data strategy evolving? Is it the same? Is there anything else that operators should be considering when it comes to their data strategy as they make that journey from, Gen AI implementations or other AI technology implementations towards agentic AI?
I mean, Adaora, this could be the topic of a standalone podcast. I mean, the data and it is, in the pyramid I described, it is like an execution enabler. It is a mission critical component. And if you don't have the right data in the right structure, it doesn't matter what AI you put on top of it. And it will be garbage in, garbage out. The challenge is that, by the way, this was one of the interesting findings in your report. Like when it comes to data, everyone was afraid about the data quality. It is number one priority in the whole, whether data is accessible. And number two is data is in silos. Like the same customer is written in 3 different databases in different way. Customer care uses a different data set. Network uses another one. Product development uses another one. And as a result, the data is becoming like how to consolidate and establish a one place. I will not go to the technological like data lake, data ocean, how to bring them together is step one. Second thing is you need to know how the relationships between these data. And that's why we call it data architecture. And now we are telling more and more data ontology and how to really shape this up in the right way. And in the old days, and when I say in the old days, like only like 2-3 years ago, to make a data architecture project for a network operator could take like 6 to 8 months. It was a pretty busy and long activity. Now, with the new emerging tools, and some of them AI-based, we can do much faster data ontology development. And like partners like Google, they can come in because they are the masters of data ontology development, and we can get in and we can create this relationship, which is important. And the third one, like you put the data in place, you create the relationships, you need to continuously track and observe what is getting in, observability. And this angle of data becoming more and more critical. How can you observe all elements? Okay, we have EMSs for every network element. We collect from OSS. Suddenly, OSS is becoming now under like transformation. It is interesting. During the last 1 month, like probably the highest number of requests coming from our clients was related to OSS transformation. They say, how can I create a single layer of observability? It is not any longer, and also like someone was saying that observability is OSS for youngsters. Like it is something like that. Like observability is really how to redefine the OSS with the right tools, with the right frequency, and with the right meaning. When you put all these 3 things together, putting the data in a clean form to a place, defining the relationships and ontology in the right way, and observing what is getting in and out in the right speed and approach. These 3 are the biggest challenges of operators now. And we will see a lot of action. And interesting enough, unless this domain is well resolved, because it is execution layer. But you can go above, you can put agentic, you can do whatever you want. You will struggle. It will be bits and pieces. This thing is one of the crucial components like you cannot skip as a step. Then that's why when we start to engage any client on agentic or GenAI, we say, guys, can we clean up the data first before we do anything? Because we don't want to go back. I mean, we will do agentic, we will prepare, and the accuracy will not increase. Again, one of the findings in your research, they say accuracy has to increase for network. But if the data is not there yet, and you can blame the model for accuracy, that's why you have to find a way to sort it out. Please.
Sure. Thank you so much, Tunc. I think you've covered that topic on data strategy really, really well. It's about having the right data. It will always remain relevant and critical in the overall scheme of things. Matt, you did mention that it's not just about having the right technology in place or having the right data in place. There's also an organizational angle to the entire discussion with Gen AI implementation, and also as the industry now begins to evolve towards agentic AI. Could you just throw a bit more light on those organizational themes that you mentioned? I know you mentioned culture before, but other aspects that operators should be bearing in mind, particularly as we kind of look at those Gen AI trailblazers as those who have the right organizational practices in place to help them accelerate the adoption of Gen AI and future AI technologies.
Yeah, I think you called out a couple key findings from the research, right, around centers of excellence, around executive buy-in and executive ownership and executive belief in outcomes. I think those came out pretty clearly within the research. Tunc also mentioned the concept of return on investment in the business case or the value case for these types of capabilities. When you look at those three things, and also the tooling and retooling of the organization, making sure your employees and those on the front lines have the skills and the capabilities to go do this, and they believe in the outcome of this too, right? If everyone goes in thinking they're going to lose their job if they kind of look at AI and help implement it, you're probably not going to get much buy-in across the organization. So I think the reality of saying, a lot of what we're seeing on the Gen AI front specifically is very additive, helps you with your job, helps you complete more tasks more quickly, drives efficiency. I think that's something that everyone's excited to do, right? Everyone loves to leave at the end of the day saying, hey, I crushed the 27 tasks plus all these other things I wanted to get done today. So I think there's a fundamental culture shift of, don't look at Gen AI or even agentic AI as an employment issue for you yourself. It's how do I use it to improve what I do every day? When that improves every day, the company improves every day, right? And I think that's like this fundamental base culture. Obviously, having the skills and the training to feel comfortable doing that is important. Having the tooling in place and the right platforms in place is super important. Having executive buy-in and then understanding what outcomes you're going to drive. I mean, I think that really becomes super key in terms of that kind of organizational and cultural shift moving towards kind of the age of AI and agentic AI.
Thank you so much, Matt. I think you've kind of nailed it in terms of several angles there when it comes to organizational practices. It's about the culture, it's having the people, the employees, having the right buy-in and viewpoints with respect to the benefits that will come from these AI investments. So that's very helpful. Thank you very much. Gradually wrapping up our discussion, what would be the key points for you? I'll probably start with you, Tunc. What would be the key points that you want to leave with telecoms operators who are, either already starting their GenAI journeys and are now looking more towards advancing, just at the point where they're still trying to make sense of what role GenAI can potentially play for them within their networks? What would be some of the key points that you want to leave with them?
In fact, I mean, we discussed a broad list of ideas. We said business case, we mentioned process view, agentic view, infrastructure view, we said data, we said organization, people. These are all critical components. I would leave with 2 points. Number one is people. I mean, people is the most critical ingredient in the whole equation. And it is probably the least sort of emphasized. Why? The number one is people feel, first of all, threatened with GenAI. If GenAI comes, will I keep my job? what will be my position? And I think the management's responsibility is to alleviate all these and saying that, I mean, really, this technology is to make things better. And you still need people. You still need people, but you need to do more and better with the limited number of people. From that angle, I believe people need some confidence. And second, investment to people. Most of our network professionals don't know the details of GenAI, how to skill them up, how to train them, how to really prepare them for the future. This is the second, I think, the largest, the most crucial challenge, especially big numbers of people being educated on that topic. Third one is organization. I mean, the Matt said, center of excellence. I mean, it depends on the culture a lot. Some operators, it is great for center of excellence. Some operators, it's great for federated. And how to create this federated or centralized balance and across the company. I mean, this is a pretty tough decision for any leader in telco. And in addition to the people, my final comment will be GenAI, we just said, it is a generational, mission critical technology. And it shouldn't be treated as something like 2G, 4G, or like any network technology. It should be treated with much higher, it should be treated like a business. If you are a telco, how can you monetize GenAI? How can you make money out of it? I think the top priority should be starting from there. I mean, we spent a good chunk of this discussion about operational improvement points. But I can say that number one is an example, operator can establish a sovereign AI business. And they can say that we will create our own sovereign cloud, we will create a sovereign AI business in any given country, and then we will really monetize AI. We see that these are public information. We are working with the Indonesian operator. There is another one in Canada. There are some examples emerging in Europe. The operators are getting into AI territory as a business. I think this is a more important step. And to support this, and this is an exotic one, like AI RAN. Okay, this is a pretty long looking solution, but how can I use AI for my infrastructure? How can I use it for my RAN and connectivity infrastructure? This could be the second one. And because a lot of innovation is happening there. And after that, you start to go to operational improvement points. Then the business case is then how should I say, all the investment to the infrastructure and everything becomes for a business, and your operational investments are pretty much an add-on use case. It is much more justifiable, much more internal approvals can be done much easier. If such an approach can be implemented, I believe, it is in the long term, there will be more stability and explainability of why did we get into the Gen AI business. I think it will be solid.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, I think well summarized points there for operators to consider. Matt, in conclusion?
Yeah, for sure. I think I've got maybe just three things pretty quickly, right? I think it's clear Gen AI is delivering real value now, right? It's no longer hype, it's reality. I think that's, for me, the number one takeaway. I think number two, success in this really hinges on organizational readiness. We talked a lot about culture, those types of things. One thing we didn't talk a lot about is, from a telco perspective, what does their ecosystem of partners look like to support this or to complement their current capabilities, right? Not every telco can be an expert at everything. How do they lean on cloud providers? How do they lean on SIs? How do they lean on ISVs to kind of help this journey and plug them into known gaps within their organization? So I think that's going to be important as you kind of build out your stable of helpers and partners that are going to help you kind of accelerate on this journey. And then I think maybe the last one is really starting this with that clear business problem, understanding what you want to achieve. And I think fundamentally, do you have the capabilities to go after those specific sets of use cases, right? Being, I think, pragmatic about, hey, we think we have solid data around these areas, and that's someplace where we could do Gen AI or agentic AI. And I think that approach becomes really important to make sure that you're successful in your first couple of POCs, and then you start to build momentum, not just within those pockets, but across the organization. People see success, and success breeds success going forward. So I think, having that clear business problem, a clear view of what the outcome you're going to drive, And then the ability to measure that outcome going forward, I think, becomes really powerful across the organization.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Matt. And thank you so much, Tunc, for your time, for the insights you've shared. These have been very, very useful. I think the key point, going back to the title of our discussion, GenAI in the network, moving from hype to reality, like Matt has spotted there, and we have spotted in the research that we've done and the reports that's been published, that there are early signs, there are early results, but it's about having the right factors in place. We've touched on the role on the need to have a clearly defined business case, but also having the right tool sets and capabilities, but also partnerships there to support, and those partnerships cut across what is more or less a broad value chain of specialists that can work with operators to realize this use case. But more importantly, having a focused view on the results, on the outcome that you have, which is why having a clearly defined business case is important. And also important is the people factor and the organizational factor as well, making sure that you have the right culture in place, but you also have the right skill sets amongst your people to really make Gen AI and future AI technologies, in addition to pre-existing AI technologies, relevant to the telco business. So I want to thank you both for joining us for today's podcast, and many thanks to you, our audience, for joining us on today's podcast. Please be reminded that the report, which includes the key findings that I shared with us earlier on this discussion, can be found on the Google Cloud website, but also the Analysys Mason website as well. We thank you for your time, and thank you so much. Many thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.